Yep, so this is our example. This is what we are going to be creating today. It's very simple, very easy to create. Just an icon that's going to be used on the desktop. So if you want to follow along with me, what I need you to do first, we're going to create a new document. And the document is going to be 800 pixels by 800 pixels. Right there. And we're going to click on Create, which is going to create a square on our desktop that looks like this. So you're going to choose the rounded rectangle on the rectangle tool over there underneath the type tool, rounded rectangle. And when we click out here someplace in the canvas, we're going to click out there. I want you to make it a rounded rectangle that is 750 by 750 pixels. And I want the corner radius to be 75 pixels. And it should make a rounded rectangle that looks like this. And mine is off center because I clicked right here. I didn't click up in the top left-hand corner. I clicked here in the middle someplace. But you can use your selection tool to grab this and drag it back up to the middle someplace. And then you can find a color for this. As long as it is selected, you can find a fill color. I'm going to do my, for this one, the very first one I'm going to use like a bright blue. We can save them individually after this, so we can save them. You could have a different color for every class. You can give it a stroke if you want to have a stroke on there. If you want to have a thicker stroke, you can do that. Again, you have the ability on the stroke menu to choose whether that is an inside stroke, an outside stroke, or a centered stroke on the path. We don't have to worry about the end caps or the corners or anything like that because we have a rounded rectangle. It doesn't have any corners. It's just a shape. All things we've done before. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab, instead of the rounded rectangle, we're going to do the ellipse tool. So that's the circle, the oval, the ellipse tool. And we're not going to click this time. We're going to zoom out. So it looks like this. Woo, moving across a little bit too much. So we zoom out, and we have the canvas looking like this now. And you're going to click, if you watch up here, I'm going to move my mouse out to the side. You can adjust it later too, but this helps right here. If you have your mouse out to the side and you drag across, so you fill in this oval over top of the thing, and you let go, it's going to fill in like this. So when you let go, it's going to keep the same color as the one you did before. And that's okay because we're going to change that by going to the fill and choosing white, going to the stroke and turning the stroke off so it doesn't have that stroke on there. And then we're going to drop the opacity of this ellipse shape down to about 20%, which should make it look like this. If you need it to be a little bit more than 20, you can do that too. It just makes it stand out a little bit more. And you'll see right here that the ellipse actually covers up the rounded rectangle, right? We're actually going to fix this part later. We're going to do that part later, so don't worry about that one right now. So it's going to look like this. It kind of has an arc to it where it's a little bit lighter, different shade over here. And then because we have those settings on the ellipse, we're going to do one more ellipse, and I'm just going to do one right across the top, something like this. And it should be the same fill and stroke, but I want to drop that opacity down to that 20-something% again. So when you have the ellipse across the top, if you drop that opacity down to that 20 to 25%, somewhere around 20%, it will, it almost gives it a 3D look because it has like a little glow across the top. So now the nice thing here, watch what happens. I don't want you to do this part right now, but if I came in and clicked on the rounded rectangle, and let's say I didn't like this color, I could come over to the green or to a white, yellowish color. I could do a red, and anything that's, these are all going to be like a shade over top of whatever that fill is. So I can click on that one and choose whatever color I want. Okay, so that's that one. If we go to our layers, oh, we didn't make any layers. That's a bad day. But we can do this. Kind of a cheater way of doing this. If you, yeah, I forgot to have you make layers as we're doing all these things, but that's okay. If you use your selection tool, the top left arrow, and select the rounded rectangle, and then if we create a new layer, make sure my rounded rectangle is selected, I can copy that and paste it, Command C, Command V. I end up with another rounded rectangle on top of the original one. And if I make sure that it's in the exact same spot, I can actually turn off the fill on this one, leave the stroke, turn off the fill, and then that makes the where it was changing the color here on the stroke down below, makes it a little bit better. So all I did was create a new layer, something on top, copied the rectangle, pasted it back on top of the original, and turned that fill off. And once we get that part done, I want you to lock these two layers. So I have those two. I have those two layers locked. If I create a new layer, this is where we're going to start drawing the things that are going to go on top of the icon. And I'm going to use my pen tool. And I'm going to pull out an example. My example. School Smart number 2. Pencil, right? So what I want to do here is I'm going to use my shift tool because I want to make sure it's nice and straight. I'm going to draw a pencil here. My guides, it doesn't matter where I start. I could draw it anywhere on here. I'm going to trace over top of it anyway. I'm just going to start right here. And I'm going to draw, making sure I hold that shift key so it's a nice straight line. I'm going to draw the basic outline. When I get down here, I have to kind of like go. Draw the basic outline for a pencil. Looks something like that. Oops, that's what I want to do. I want to move this thing just up just a touch. There we go. And now that I have the outline of this shape, I know that the eraser is going to go up here across the top. And so what I'll do is I'll use the pen tool again, and I will draw using the original path there and holding the shift key down so it does nice straight lines. I'm going to draw a square, rectangle, and I'm going to fill it in with an eraser-ish type color. And then I go to the pen tool. I'm going to come down here, click right on that path. There we go. And you'll see that it turns out pink. And maybe I need to come over here and find some kind of a gray color. Find any kind of a gray that I want to use for this one, just for the top part there. When I get to the pencil part, again, I'm going to use my pen tool. Maybe I'll choose my yellow to start. Whoop, it's going to change that one. I don't want that. click off of it someplace, choose a yellow, and then I'll do this one where I come down here, and then I just bring it back up. Doesn't matter where you click. If you hold down the shift key, it'll be 45 degrees, but you use your smart guides here as some help because they'll there it is. I bring it back up this way, back up and close that one, and now that part is completed as well. So I have that. And then the last little bit here, I'm going to click on where the lead would be. So click off, maybe change my color to a black. I just draw a little triangle down here at the bottom. And then the last little bit there, I have to get the, oh, that's not it. Click off of it. Find the wood color for in here as well. So if I join this intersection and trace along this little bit, come over to the top here, I end up with a halfway decent looking pencil. If I don't like these pointy things and how the everything goes, I can select all the pencil using a command and shift and clicking on everything, and then change the stroke properties so it'll be a rounded join, maybe some round caps, and I can change the alignment so it's either on the inside or outside, however I want. But then we end up with a pencil. Looks like this. And if you select the whole pencil and then group it together, now when you use your selection tool, it is one shape. It doesn't matter if I click on one part of it, click on the eraser, I can still move the whole thing. I can rotate it, move it all together like that. Okay, and that should be on a separate layer. That's on a layer by itself. And if I wanted to, I could take this, move it over here, and maybe use the type tool and click in here and type ENG English 9. Change the font size so it's a lot bigger. I can actually read it. Right, move it out of the way there. English 9. Use some of the tools that we've learned over the last little bit, so I can smash them together. Maybe change the font so it stands out a little bit better. Totally up to you. And that should all be on the same layer. And then once you get this one done, you can turn it off and lock it, and then create another layer, and maybe start creating something else. And this one, if I want to do math, maybe I create just a little calculator off to the side.